welcome back to the show, Ritchie McCombe from the band Crostpaths. Welcome, Ritchie.
Hey man, thanks for having me on
Abs-
again.
Absolutely my pleasure. Since the last time you've been on, I featured on one of the EPs, which we didn't talk about. We
Yeah,
haven't
man.
before. I was on your Minced Oaths EP on track Tune
Yeah,
Jam, which was really cool to get back into recording some scratches and stuff like that for someone. And that's kind of, you know, it's gone on from there, which we'll talk about in a bit, which you already know
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, it's been a couple of years since that EP. It's about a year and a half, 2 years, isn't it? I think, about.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, spot on, spot on. It was start of 2022, I think. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So and from there, what we're talking about today is you brought out another EP. Um, and that came out in May this year. We were due to talk, but things got in the way, as things did,
life.
and then life, and then since then we've been trying to make this work, and now here we are in October. You know, it's only,
Yeah,
it's not too bad, to be fair. I've had worse.
I'd say so.
When you say to
The
your
same.
friend, "We need to meet up," we haven't seen them for years, and then
Mhm.
nothing really happens, and you say it again about a year later. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the same calendar year. I count that as a victory, to be honest,
yes.
for this one.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got groups of friends where, like, they say there's six of us, me being the sixth person. We haven't had all six of us together in a room since like 2019. It's been fours and fives, never the full six.
Oh,
It's
wow.
impossible it's impossible when you get to a certain age, isn't it?
It
Just
is.
happens.
It is, and where you start sort of expanding your family like you have done as well
Yeah,
since
yeah,
we
yeah.
last talked. Congratulations on that. I know you've had a little one for a little while, and
Thank you, man.
how are you finding that? Like, how did you perceive it beforehand, and how has it been reality wise?
Okay, good question. 'Cause you've got a daughter yourself, haven't you?
I've got three of them, so
Wow. Right. Okay. Way ahead of me. Okay. Um, I think that when I was younger, something I wanted,
yep.
and then you keep thinking, oh yeah, when I'm a bit older, and then getting to the point where it had to happen. You couldn't like escape the fact I'm in my mid 30s now, so it was probably a good time to do it. Although my parents were older
Yep.
than this, so um, perception wise, when the reality struck, and you go to the hospital every couple of months, and it all becomes a bit real and
Yeah,
clinical, doesn't it?
it does.
That's when I was like, actually, I don't know. Am I ready for this? Am I prepared for this? Will I be any good at this? Then uh, I'm not even going to dwell on that thought process, because then suddenly she's here, she's 8 months old, and haven't looked back, because
Yeah,
the second she was in the world, you just click into gear.
you do.
You don't realize some of the like stuff you've got in the back of your mind that's
Yes,
been there for generations.
it has. Yeah,
It's just genetics, isn't it?
it is.
So it's like, wow, yeah, it's brilliant, fantastic, wouldn't change a thing, absolutely amazing experience, and
I,
I'm hoping she's a very happy little baby, so I hope she grows up to be a happy little person.
Yeah,
Be really
I,
good.
I mean that's what we all hope from all our kids. I mean, you're right.
Yeah,
Sort of like the sort of thought process beforehand. You're like, am I actually right? Can I do that? Everyone has that thought.
yeah,
Like, am I the right person to do this? But once they're there, your sort of like nurture and survival instincts, and your that paternal instinct that you're talking about just sort of kicks in, and suddenly
yeah,
there's like, there's this like you don't think about it, but you've got to keep this being alive. You know,
yes, yeah,
you've got
yeah.
to,
You never actually like, yeah, you never literally think about it like that until you verbalize it. But yeah,
yeah,
that's what's going on somewhere in there. And yeah, you get energy. You could be exhausted, but you get energy from nowhere, like
yep,
to just do stuff when it's necessary and things. And I say, wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
brilliant. I know it's not for
excellent.
everyone. It's not for everyone.
No,
But if it is, like, if people are thinking about it, please, yeah, I'd encourage them.
no, definitely,
Brilliant.
definitely. I know a lot of people that don't have children, they don't want children, and they have their
Yeah,
reasons for that and stuff, which is
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Oh, I always wanted kids. It wasn't something that that was staunch against, and I'm fortunate enough to have sort of like two of my own, three if you include my stepchild as well.
Yes.
So it's it's just one of those things, like, if you wanted to leave something here legacy wise you have, you know,
Good
but
word.
it's
Good
kind of
word.
it's kind of up to you not to kind of like screw it up as well. So,
Yeah.
there are certain things that, I mean, I make mistakes all the time. Don't get me wrong. I can step on people.
Human.
I can make them angry. I can say
Yeah.
stuff, they can say stuff, and then it's just, I grew up in a house of three. I've got three brothers and a sister, and being on the same house as that, we fought, we argued,
Yeah.
and the kids do the same as well. They argue, I answer back to my mum, you got a clip around the ear. Kid answer back to me, you can't clip them around the ear anymore.
No. No,
So,
certainly not.
but you find other ways of kind of dealing with it, and we find our spaces to go and calm down, and we know when there's sort of outside things that are causing aggro, be it being hungry or something like that, that sort of hangry feeling which can get in the way. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's certainly a journey, especially being in a band as well, because I started my family towards the end of the life of my band, and it was probably one of the reasons why we decided to go kind of split our ways. It was one of the like reasons. um
Yeah.
and in as much as life, like you already said, sort of
Mhm.
life gets in the way. But and
Sure.
how have you kind of found that? Like, obviously, she's young, so she's probably not, aware of what you're doing on that front. But how have you found the sort of commitment to making music and stuff like that? Is it, obviously, your priorities do change, but how do you sort of weigh that up?
Yeah.
Sure, you know,
Yeah. Brilliant. A brilliant question, to be honest with you. Is
it's
when you said
probably
the
not
word,
where you
word
saw where you're going to
legacy,
go. Yeah,
when you said the word legacy, I know that didn't involve the music part of things, but everything this band has been for us as a group um, was born off the back of frustrations with how previous bands had ended.
yeah,
Said that in loads of interviews before. So we always talk about how we always do the air quotes of making it doesn't exist anymore,
yep,
and we always talk about doing things for bucket list, not for fun, because I think that can just be a bit um, too airy fairy. If it's just purely for fun, there's no substance.
yeah,
There's got to be some meaning behind it. So everything this band does is yeah, fun, but to leave some sort of legacy, to tick
mhm,
off bucket list stuff. So if it ends tomorrow, we already have a catalogue of things we can say we did. And then that mindset, like you said, priorities shift when a newborn offspring comes along.
yep,
And we'd already discussed it. Like I said, I've been in the mindset of, am I going to be a good dad? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that?
yeah,
We were at the point that was all going on. We got all the hospital appointments and everything. Obviously, my wife's going through most of it
yes,
and doing the physical part, but like you're on the sidelines as moral support, aren't you? And
yes,
you're 50% responsible for this.
yep,
So, but in the meantime, I've got bandmates that we've got each other through the pandemic, and we've got each other through band breakups, and we've been there for each other. For some of the guys had relationship breakups and stuff like that, and the
yeah,
music's always the catharsis. So that's why I was a bit like just shut down the word fun a little bit there. It is fun.
yeah,
Like if it wasn't, we just wouldn't do it.
yeah,
But it's like it's hard to just go right. Well, that isn't important anymore. It's still important,
yep,
but it just kind of has to take a back seat more than it did.
yes,
To juggle a bit more. Really looked at. We got very lucky with our gig offers for the summer that they fell. Like we didn't go on tour or anything. We just did a couple of dates a month. We've been doing that every month since May. Done a couple of gigs a month, and then we're slowing it right down again. Not it's just for the falling our laps, but it's how we wanted it to be.
yeah,
Um, a couple of small festivals, and we just played Blondies in East London last week, which is like a tiny venue. Played with an awesome band called Nightlives from Wales,
mm,
and but it was a bucket list place because Kerrang did all their K Pit intimate shows with Machine Head and Bullet and all that, and Fever 333.
yep,
So we've seen all these videos of this tiny venue that barely holds like 30 people. And so it's like when the offer come up to do that, we're like, cool, that's worth it. So yeah, it's a Thursday night. We'll figure out. Grandparents might have to step in with it then.
yeah,
Blah 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 blah. What it did affect, I think, it hasn't affected gigs physically for me because
yeah,
you said earlier, like when you need that extra energy to look after it, then it's there.
yeah, yep,
Yeah, right. So gigs, I'm not knackered from a gig. Like can't be dealing with baby now. Not at all.
yeah,
That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened at all. But really enjoy the gigs, but what I used to have loads of time and energy for mentally was all the promotion.
Yeah.
So if you're on social media, networking with people like yourself,
Yep.
promoters, all sorts of people in the industry that aren't, and obviously other bands and our peers. I haven't had the energy for all that, and I really hope people haven't thought, God, prima donnas, they think they're too big to talk to us anymore. I've just not been as active because that's been my role in the band, and no one else really does it. And that's not no fault on them; they do their share.
Yeah.
That's been my role, and I've had to. We've put out a new record this year, and I really dropped the ball with some of the promo. Like we could have really blown it up bigger than we did because I kind of relied on a lot of organic traction with that. So that's been a big change. Don't know if that will ever change back because she's not going anywhere.
Nope.
So I don't know. We're just going with it. And the guys have been really. I mean, they might have been frustrated at points, but they've been very understanding. They know like that they can't really argue with circumstances like this. So, and they were very supportive. And in fact, like towards the end of the pregnancy, I stepped back and I was just sort of just dipping in now and then
Yeah.
as we were getting the record finished up and booking up our first dates for the year. So that was say from Christmas time into
Yep.
spring. Baby came along in mid Feb, and I didn't go to rehearsals for months. Our last gig was like Halloween 2022 before our next gig was end of May 2023.
Yeah.
And that was all part of it. It was like, can't really get back into things until it was a few months old. We know what we're doing with this baby. What's the routine going to be like? Get back to work. And
Yep.
the guys have been really cool about it. So it's ever evolving. I think, like, say, the gigs I still enjoy a lot, really do. And the part of the gigs is seeing people, meeting people, and talking to people. But it's now doing all the online promo, we've not been as active as we probably should have been. That's largely my fault, I would say. But it's been a big change. So we've been trying to do as much as we can, but it's you always such like most people that want to be creative.
Yeah.
There you want perfection, don't you? And that just doesn't exist. And I think that's
Yeah.
where we've dropped the ball a bit this year.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you know,
it is a tough sort of thing to balance on that front, especially promotion, because it has to be a daily thing now, especially for independents.
yeah,
Like I found it like, you know, sort of bring it back to me, but with
yeah,
I mean, with the podcast, it's generally I post every few days. You know, get a podcast
yeah,
every few days. I'll post, you know, I'll try some bits on CapCut. You know, I'm learning those sort of bits still, and sort of cutting stuff together for TikTok and all that kind of stuff. And I was the social media manager for Total Rock as well, so you know,
yeah,
I was doing stuff for them. And now like with the music I'm releasing, I'm sort of getting back into that side of things, that musical promotion, because there's only two of us, and
yeah,
it's the same sort of deal. Only one of us knows social media,
yeah,
putting stuff together. So it's fine. I don't mind taking that role. I don't mind doing that, but it is kind of a daily thing, and that's weird. Like because
yeah,
I'm staring at this thing, you know, or I'm like, you know, on the laptop here, creating bits, putting bits together, cutting bits up. What
yeah,
am I going to do next? Sending out emails, all that kind of stuff. And you know, I did PR back in the day, you know, for
yeah,
Cypher and everything. So I know I had contacts. This was the other thing as well, as finding those contacts.
yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of them do
exactly.
not work in the magazine industry anymore, or the publication industry, because COVID changed so much. Like they went
Yeah,
into
man.
other jobs, like, you know, copywriting or something like that, to put their writing skills and analytic skills to you know, a more profitable use, I would say, because you know, being a journalist isn't all that. So
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it's difficult, and with kids as well, because they want your attention. Even kids my
Yeah,
age, I mean, they're teenagers, they want your attention. They're showing you stuff, they're wanting to do stuff, they're wanting to, you know, whatever the kids are into these days, that's what they want to do. But
yes.
they are very helpful when it comes to online stuff, I found as well.
Oh, I bet. I
So
bet, man.
they're kind of on the cusp of like, you know, knowing what's trending, and if anything is, if I see anything that I can work with, because there's a lot of stuff that I can't, you
It's
know,
got to be relevant, doesn't it?
yeah,
It's
it's
got to be
got to be
relevant.
relevant. So, but yeah, I can definitely see your struggle with that side of it. But
Yeah,
it does, you know, you'll find the time, you'll get out there. You ever thought about
yeah.
hiring like a separate like press agent to help, or is money not, the money's not there for that sort of side of things?
Uh, like you said, the COVID thing kind of messed with that a bit. I think we've put our money into PR campaigns and digital marketing and stuff like that, and we look at how much we've put in and how much we've got back from it. And we're like, was that worth it? Don't know. Got a couple of things out of it, but it's like because also we're paying for and we're doing this all on a budget because we've got friends that do mates rates and things like that.
Yeah.
But when you do promo videos and recording and stuff like that, that all costs money.
Yeah.
So it's prioritizing budget, and with the price of everything going up, there's nothing's exempt. Couple of the lads have struggled with bills and stuff. They're trying to get their heads around how they're going to afford to pay the rent, let alone put money into the bands. Do you know what I mean? So we've had we probably invested a lot of money in the band in the first couple of years, which was during the pandemic. And then I think this year's been the first year, if we just started this year as year zero, where the bands looked sustainable. But the problem is we've got two and a bit years before that where we've thrown money down the well. Because this year, between merch sales and gig fees, we've done okay. If that had been the case every year, the band would almost pay for itself, or at least the losses would be minimal.
Yeah.
So it's like, getting your head around that. And if someone loses their job or something like that, and just people can't plan these things, but it might be the month that you're putting the record out and you're like, but dude, we need to pay this invoice. And it's just, we've tried to, in the past few months, decided to scale that back because we know it can be a source of stress, and therefore and therefore we've had discussions like that, and it's like, okay, so for the near future we certainly wouldn't be looking at anything like that, because none of these people, I mean, quite rightly, none of these people work for free. But as they'll tell you, they don't guarantee you anything either. So you can throw money at something and you might, like I say, might not get out of it what you hoped for. So for now, I mean, like the track we just dropped, we decided to just surprise drop it. Just something we haven't done before. We've always done this EP's coming out in 2 months and this single's coming out in 2 weeks. This time we just put it online, and we didn't do it on Fridays because that's release day, isn't it? Just did it on like a Sunday or a Monday. Like, there you go, there's the song. And it's had like a warm reception. I wouldn't say hot, but what we're going to do is just build it. We're going to do a slow burn with it, because if everyone hasn't heard it yet, that means we've still got loads of ears to greet people with. And it's also, the track is like to feed back to the EP. Because it samples a track from the EP. And we've kept the artwork in line and little things like that, little details. So it's the same year, so it's the same project, same ethos, same vibe. But actually, that was always the plan, like to do stuff like that now, which, say, the guest vocals on it, we got like a year ago. And that's when we were talking about throwing money at this EP and stuff like that. And then by the time we've come around to actually releasing the single, we're talking about scaling back the money for a little while until things are a bit more settled. So like, you have an idea a year ago and it has to evolve. You have to just change with the times, I guess, personally and global.
It's a tough game. I'm finding out again how tough this is, so I can totally be there with you on that. And for those that we've been talking about a lot of stuff, but the EP is called "This Is Fire," by the way, because I think we haven't mentioned it. But that is out now. That's got some great tracks on it. You got like, I think, Cookie Cutter.
Man, that's like a rap metal track.
Shapeshifter.
Yeah, it's more metalcore kind of thing.
I mean, you got it's 6 tracks, isn't it?
It's a weird little collection, because I've listened back to the record. I'm proud of it. I am. I like a lot of stuff that's on it. But trying to put it into the live set has been strange, because live, you don't want to be too one paced. And the EP is kind of like 2 or 3 songs that are a little bit moody and ambient and existential, and then 2 or 3 songs that are a bit more up and party vibes, which is, we'd already got both of those vibes in our live set. So you don't want to overload it with one of them. So planning our sets now, when you get 30 to 45 minutes and you're trying to keep the energy going, but you want to squeeze in all the new songs, but I don't want to get rid of that old song, because that one's one of the more popular ones. It's it's a record that took like 18 months from demo stage to release stage, I
Okay.
think. So the first riffs and stuff were probably late 2021.
So
And then by the time they were fully fledged songs, it was 2020, mid to late 2022. And then we got it all finalized for release this May. So we've been sat them for a little while.
Yeah. So I'll say that predates Minced Oaths as well. Is that?
Kind of overlaps a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of overlaps a little bit because we, like most bands and most musical artists and stuff, we have a back catalogue. We've tried to get most of it out because content is king, isn't it? So even if it's not the best song in the world, if it's still, we don't want to put anything out that we think's crap at all. But even if it's like not something we think will blow up, it's still generating interest.
Yeah.
So it's and it also just means that once those songs are out there, there's always the potential we can do something with them further down the line. So like the latest track is a fully expanded remix version of an interlude song.
Yeah.
And Minced Oaths, which you're on a track called Chili Jam. That song was literally written for live. The instrumental was for a live interlude.
Okay.
That's why it was so chilled.
Yeah.
Because we're coming out the back with the riffs and the screams and the raps and stuff, and then it was like mid-set, just break it all down. I'll probably chat to the audience and just say how you doing, generic stuff.
Yeah.
It's before we really had our characters defined as a group.
Yeah.
And then the boys loved jamming that little tune, so laid it down, and I was like, this needs some scratching on it.
Yeah.
I remembered yourself. And I was like, yes. I was so pleased when you said yes, because I wasn't sure if you were still into doing any of that anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. Minced Oaths and This Is Fire do overlap a bit, and because obviously on Minced Oaths there's the Rampage remix as well, which is from Mutated.
Yeah.
So it just shows you were kind of always sort of bubbling.
Yeah.
Always bubbling away.
Good, because
it's like
shows a progression in certain songs as well, even if they are remixes. Like you're still working on those old tracks, if you will. So
yeah, man, absolutely. I think because nowadays it's so much easier. I mean, rock's still the hardest genre to record if you want live drums and things involved. It's not as easy as producing pop and hip hop and stuff like that and electronic stuff in your bedroom. You need bigger spaces, don't you, to get rock music recorded? But it's much easier than it ever was, and a lot quicker. So it means that we can go back to things. And whereas bands now that have been playing, like big bands have been playing the same songs for years, they sort of embellish them a bit live. They'll make this bit longer and they'll change this bit, and because they've lived with it for so long. We're living with songs for a few months and we're already like, we could do this with it. And do you know what I mean? So a lot of the time we end up doing that into a remix or rather than a live version. And then we might incorporate the remix into a live version and just keep evolving what we've got. Because saying earlier about having time to do things, it's a good way of utilizing your time efficiently. I think if we like trying to write a 6-track EP when you've all got full-time jobs, someone like myself settling down and having a family, 6 tracks and you've got to write to them all and record them to a level that you're happy with, and takes a lot of time. It really does. And bands that are full-time bands that don't have other jobs take years between records, and you can see why. It just takes a lot of time. It does. Some songs, though, I mean, I briefly channel hopping last night. Let's go on a tangent. Some songs happen in seconds. Like minutes, rather. Like Fleetwood Mac were on BBC Two last night. Like they're going through the old archive stuff. And there was just a little bit caption underneath that said Stevie Nicks said she wrote the lyrics to Dreams in 10 minutes on her bed.
Yeah.
Whereas Mick Fleetwood said it's his favourite song Fleetwood Mac ever wrote. And Stevie Nicks wrote it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's mad. That happened.
So, and then there's our little new metal thing that we take months agonizing over. But then obviously there's lyrics in there and riffs in there that would have come up in seconds. It's just expanding them into songs and fully fledged EPs takes a long time.
That's the thing.
So,
it's with like when you talk about those moments where people like can write those, like Elton John wrote what it was in like 5 minutes. and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And you're like, well, it's like, they've encapsulated that moment, and that moment,
Yeah.
it was a complete moment, if you will. So
Yes.
like someone went and they wrote like that entire, like say Stevie Nicks wrote all those lyrics in
Yeah.
10 minutes on a bed,
Yeah.
and like that moment, that was like that perfect kind of like creative moment for them, and they've
Yeah.
encapsulated it. And it doesn't negate, like, when songs take months to make or anything like that, or an album takes years to make, or you go Guns N'
Yeah.
Roses go 15 years between albums.
Yeah.
Tool that go like 20.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you can like, it's capturing that moment, and you want to capture it. You can capture bits of it and put it together like a jigsaw, um
Yeah.
or that you get like the complete in the box jigsaw, the kids jigsaw,
Yeah.
that come in,
Yeah, man.
and 5 minutes and it's done, and it's just, but it is still, you get the same result. But then there's also the
Yeah.
thing of like, that there are moments of underthinking things, and not completing
Yeah.
things, or over completing something.
Yeah.
Someone like, oh, I should have just kept that simple. When you do all this
Yeah.
prep or something, and then suddenly it's just stripped back, and you're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, actually that was better.
Mate,
So
it's mad because like I could listen to the EP now, and like I said, I'm proud of it, pleased with it, love how some of the songs sound live. I think actually a couple of them sound better live.
yeah,
That's no slight on the production at all. Like I said, the tracks sound huge on the
yeah,
record, but just live is always a different energy, isn't it? And
yeah,
some of them I think work better live. Maybe I think I sound better live on some of them because I've got the energy in the moment. Whereas in the studio, sometimes focusing on getting the words right and hitting the
yeah,
beat and stuff. Whereas live, the breath, you breathe where you can, and someone might do something in front of you that makes you change a bit. But I was just listening to a podcast before I jumped to this one with Mark Maron had Rob Halford from Judas Priest on, and it's just reassuring when a 72-year-old from one of the biggest metal bands of all time says like he can listen to any stuff they've written in the past 5 years and just feel uncomfortable about it, and like, oh, I don't like this, or this could be better, blah blah blah. And he says he feels more at ease listening to the older stuff. And I forget how he explained it now, but it made perfect sense. It was just like, I think if anything's too fresh and recent, you're still like, is that finished? Is that done?
yeah,
So even this record, that, like I say, it took about 18 months from the early like kernels of an idea to the final piece
yeah,
being released. There's stuff that I think if the 4 or 5 of us sat in a room now, we'd probably redo bits because that's just the nature of the beast.
yeah,
Um, but we had lovely reviews for it. It wasn't like 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 reviews, but it was like they got it. There was like they were mentioning there was some really good quotes we've put in our EPK, which I can't find at the moment, but they were just basically talking about the fluidity that we have with genre and stuff like that. So even if they were gushing about how great it was, they got what we were trying to do.
yeah,
They were like, yes, these guys do a bit of this and a bit of that and blah blah blah. That's what they're trying to do here. It's like, yep, that's basically the record. Thank you.
yeah,
You got it. Whether
yeah,
you liked it or not, you got it. And
yeah,
no one seems to have misunderstood this record. Whereas we've got people that are close to us as people that said, "Oh, we prefer the older stuff." It's like, well, thanks a lot. It's like these are people we know personally. It's like, oh, well, thanks. Wasted our time then.
yeah.
But
Oh,
that's
oh well.
that's the whole point. That's the whole point, though. That
Yeah,
is the whole point.
yeah. No,
Because if so, it's been really cool to. This is the only time we've done it like this. Not to keep banging on about the pandemic, but the first couple of EPs, we were stunted with the live show
yeah,
because first EP was out about 6 months before the world shut down,
mm,
and we put the second EP out while we were in and out of lockdowns.
yeah,
So this was the third EP was when what life was getting back to normal,
yeah,
and we were just about to hit the stage. But they were songs that were all collaborations with people like yourself and Kid Bookie. So those songs weren't necessarily made to be played live. And so when this one come out, and like so we had 7 months off between gigs, the build up to the record and the shows this summer, a lot of it was what's it going to sound like live and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's been quite um, productive, I'd say. If anything comes out this year, we had great support for it. We've seen every gig like has been well attended, even the out of town ones and stuff. Um, which you can't always say that as a band. We've had a really good run this year. every gig we done. So it makes you think, right? Even if the streaming numbers haven't hit what you hoped they would,
Yeah.
or say the reviews were a bit like, yeah, it's good, not amazing, but it's good. Right? We're seeing people coming out to the shows, and we're like, well, something's connected here. We've done something right, and the momentum that we thought we had built and then lost, we're not we're not the hot new thing anymore. We're still a new band. We're
Yeah.
not. There's loads of newer bands than us that are jumping the queue now.
Will always be the
We're
case.
still exactly, exactly. But it just made you feel like, well, all that work was kind of worth it. There's been
Yeah.
some gigs this year where we've looked at each other and gone, those 7 months of not gigging and the year before of writing this record, it was all worth it because
Yeah.
the gigs have been the lifeblood really this year, I think. Which
Yeah.
it was meant to be a big release year, and actually it's been more about performing weirdly. But I think the two go hand in hand now.
Yeah.
To be honest, more than ever, more than ever.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, jumping on the sort of spike of this new metal resurgence as well, which I wanted to talk about because I think we talked about it before, and there was this like rumble
Yeah,
of stuff going on.
yeah,
And now it seems to be like this will be, I'm hoping, the next sort of
yeah,
wave of reminiscing resurgence, whatever. Or there's a lot of bands like yourself out there. There's that have taken that new metal, what was new metal back when it was new,
yeah,
and added their own sort of style to it and everything, which is really exciting because that's what I feel new metal was always about. It wasn't just the sort of like hip hop and rock crossover. It was a lot of aspects of other musical genres that kind of came in. It was just obviously the rap side of it was sort of predominant because there was more elements, obviously the lyrical style and people like myself with a set of these
yeah,
in a way, so
yeah.
taking the
Hell
different
yeah,
elements. But I've always found that there's a lot of bands that like my old band, we used to like incorporate a lot of electronic stuff, dance stuff, in there.
yeah.
And what from a band that are active in that field, have you seen, I mean, I could probably name a couple of bands right now that are sort of coming through, but how has that been like, has that helped, because your style is very on that new metal side of things,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and it is that sort of like that sort, yeah, like I say, that side of things. But have you noticed this resurgence yourself?
yeah. Hell yeah. Um, I think I first noticed it like as a fan. I noticed it about 6 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, because bands like Horror,
Yes.
HO9909 Horror,
Yeah.
um, they were popping up, and they were so. I mean, the quality is subjective whether people like them or not because they're very abrasive.
Yeah.
But they were a punk, much like Prodigy are a punk band. As much as they're an electronic act, Horror are as much a punk band as they are like a rap rock group. They were just. I saw them live once or twice when they were new and
Yeah.
coming up, and that's when I was like, this they're like cutting edge. Like you can see all their old influences, but they're cutting edge. This sounds new. This is fresh. This is a new wave kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, there's older artists that were sort of re-embracing some of the old stuff as well. Like you touched on, I was on a podcast recently called In the Sewers. It's her DJ name Charlotte is a glam rat. She works for loads of digital radio stations and stuff like that. And she's her aesthetically, her look and a lot of the stuff she associates herself with tends to be the old Sunset Boulevard sleaze sort of hair metal
Yeah.
look. Motley, Guns,
Yeah.
and all those sort of bands. She like said she's a big new metal fan. People just don't realise, and that's why she was pleased to have me on the pod so we could have a chat about it because she doesn't often get to talk about it. And she was talking about the cycle, like this coming back around and it being cyclical. And she said, like, oh, we've got a little notification on there. I'm going to click OK. Thank you for choosing Zoom. Yes, and 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 she's like, she was saying about people who dismissed it as a fad.
Yeah.
And I said, like, well, it might well have been, but like good fads come back around. I think fads, by definition, probably don't come back around. But like, it's if it wasn't good, it would never have come back. It
No,
made an impact.
it was more, I mean, I was part of it, so it was more on the fad.
Yeah,
Like it was a fashion. It was a culture.
yeah,
That was the thing. It was
yeah,
it wasn't just the music; it was the image
Yeah.
with it. Obviously,
Yeah.
right now, Korn and Adidas have finally got a collaboration
Yeah.
coming up in the next,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I'm really excited about. But I doubt, I'll be able to afford anything that they do because I'd love a pair of Korn trainers. Um,
Yeah. It looks like they're going to be a fortune. I did do my research and I was
yeah.
gutted. I'm like, I can't justify any of this. I want it, but I can't justify it.
So
Yeah,
I've got an Adidas jacket, got some Adidas socks. It's fine. That's all I need.
exactly.
But no, it was it was a movement because you didn't have that. You had like it coincided with the likes of the sort of like WWE or WWF at the time. That
Yeah.
whole Attitude Era was
Yep.
that kind of like came along with like at the same time. So that's another part of the culture, and it incorporated the new metal as well because you had
Yeah.
Union Underground, Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach,
Yeah.
all being part of this kind of like, this company.
Yeah.
But like the music hit on that. The music was sort of, it hit the charts here as well. Like it's mad to sort of think and say that Limp Bizkit were the ones that got to number one. Everyone, like, I put a question out, like a random thing at work, like a quiz question, and everyone thought Linkin Park. you know
Mm.
but it wasn't
Yeah.
Biscuit that got that, and like albums, and like
Yeah.
now we're seeing this resurgence. I mean, the sales aren't the same, not gonna sort of like sugarcoat it that way, but it was there's a lot of bands charting again.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
Architects
Yeah.
getting number one, Don Broco getting number one, Skindred getting
Yeah.
number two, Sleep Token,
Yeah.
all those bands, that are kind of, some of that have been around for years. It's
Yeah.
it's now, we're now seeing that again, and I think it comes along with that because as much as emo is huge because that was a whole culture as well. That sort of
It was straight
fell.
after. It was straight after, wasn't it?
It
It
was,
didn't.
and it
Yeah.
emerged first.
Yeah.
It came back
Yeah. Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I think it was more, with the emo side of things, that always falls to me. It always felt like it was an evolution of the goth era. The
Yeah.
new romantic kind of, slightly depressed demeanor, and
100%.
all that kind of, not to knock emo or anything like that. Everyone's got their thing, so it's all good.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like it was a resurgence of that because
Hmm.
you could bring in bands from like the 80s, like The Cure and the Smiths and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Whereas with new metal, it's kind of the first big wave of that. I felt of that
Yeah.
sort of sound. I mean, you had elements before with Anthrax and Public Enemy and Run DMC and Aerosmith kind of crossing over and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff, but that wasn't a movement. That wasn't the catalyst for it. That was just two bands collabing, which is great, which I love
Yeah.
to see, you guys do it. And there are other bands
Yeah.
that have kind of done it before as well. Like you've had Jacoby from Papa Roach pop up on people's tracks,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's kind of like getting those sort of, those moments in and seeing if they either a catalyst for the band that they're featuring on. Because a lot of like mainstream pop bands do that. Like DJ Khaled's a sort of massive one for that. Or, he'd
Yeah.
feature on a verse, or he'd just have his like DJ Khaled thing in the background. And you get like all the big rappers do it. They'll throw a verse on stuff. But yeah, I feel that like that new metal movement was just like that moment in time where it kind of, it came up, it went up, and it burnt out. Like it didn't burn out, like fade away, it just like exploded and gone. And new metal was a dirty word for a bit.
Mm. There was loads of reasons for that. There was loads of reasons for that, wasn't there? It was because on one hand, I think it was people get fed. Well, you tell that to the public now who've been listening to Ed Sheeran for a decade and don't seem to be fed up of that. But I think people got fed up of new metal because it was in your face constantly for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And they're like, right, we're sick of this now. I think that happens with rock and metal more than anything, actually.
Right.
If it's in the public eye, they're like bored of that sound now.
Yep.
And you had two of the main, like you mentioned, Biscuit had the number one single in the UK and stuff like that. They were easy targets because very gimmicky. Fred Durst was an outspoken character,
Yep.
a lot to criticise there. Although I think in his older age, he's got so self-aware and so self-deprecating, it's hard to knock the guy anymore. He was one of my heroes, but I totally got why people disliked him. But now it's like, dude, he gets it.
Yeah.
You cannot fuck with Fred Durst anymore. He gets it. He made his money when it was the last chance to make the money.
Yep.
He still gets to rock out in front of thousands of people, and he doesn't even do Biscuit full time anymore. It's just like, right, we're going to do a little tour now, and loads of people are going to turn up. that talking of like the newer wave, like you mentioned initially, it has fed back more than any sort of throwback or resurgence of an old thing. The new wave seems to be really respectful of the older ones, because I think in hip hop, when hip hop sort of I was trying to use a word that isn't insulting. When this like the SoundCloud rap age came through, there was a lot of them talking shit in the press, saying I've never listened to Tupac and stuff like that, just talking shit. You're like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
Like, there's already a bunch of older hip hop heads that are really finding it hard to get into your sound, and now you've just really
just completely.
You've just told them that what they like is like irrelevant.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous, because with the nature of technology now, like all eras of music are omnipresent with streaming. You make your own playlist now. You don't have to have the radio. So, but we still need the radio for I think for the human connection as much as the music now. Yeah. But with Biscuit, like TikTok, they didn't need it when they were shifting a million albums like in a week. They didn't need it 20 odd years ago. But I think when the streaming era started to invade and those bands took a dive for a few years, they could have really done with something like TikTok existing, because they're so gimmicky and cartoonish, and their tracks are so impactful in segments, like big brash lyrics and a big hook. TikTok's just built for that impact for teenagers. So there's a bunch of teenagers that probably think Fred Durst still looks like he did in 1999, because like and you mentioned Skindred. They're not technically new metal, but they're so adjacent, super adjacent.
Oh yeah.
And notice they're having their most successful period ever after how many years? They were on Jules Holland last night.
Yep.
They did. Benji was on Buzzcocks. They had a #2 album, which was like a handful of copies away from being #1.
Yep.
They've supported Kiss on tour. They're going to go to Wembley Arena as a headline act for the first time ever in the new year.
Yep.
This, for anyone that wasn't paying attention, would go, "Whoa, that's happened out of nowhere." No, they've grafted at that for years. But also, I think Nobody went viral on TikTok, didn't it? Nobody Dance.
Yes, it did. Yes.
Right. That's a song from when? I couldn't tell you. 2005 or something.
20 years. 21 years.
Is it earlier? Blimey. Right. So there you go.
About 2000, I think.
2000. So old, isn't it now?
Because we played with them around that era when they released that.
Yeah.
Because that was. Yeah. I mean, that was on a major label. Like back then.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like, you know, someone to take that, do that dance from the video, which is an impossible dance. Not that I've tried it, but
mate, we didn't try it.
No, but it's just like,
I'll tell you who did.
Go on then.
Our friends in Pulverize. Do you know Pulverize?
Yeah, I've heard of Pulverize.
Yeah, they're like a Yorkshire-based rap metal band, and they bumped into Benji a few times. I think they played with Dub War at some point, and Benji obviously loved them. And when Benji was on, I think he was with Mikey. He was on BBC News in the morning when they were doing the chart battle.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they showed clips from the TikTok viral thing, and they used Pulverize's video. So it was like, even your local rap metal bands are getting onto BBC News now. That's how much of a resurgence new metal is having. But I think I was going on a tangent about Biscuit. Much as there's a bit of nepotism involved with them, they've taken like Wargasm out on tour with them, who are totally doing like the electronic side of new metal. Totally. Band that, I mean, I'd love to know who they are, but Black Gold.
Yeah, Black Gold.
They give off they're giving off a lot of industry plant vibes, but I'm not judging either way, but they do.
Yeah.
But the fact that they could be an industry, the fact that you can get a new metal industry plant in 2023 tells you that there must be something bubbling under.
That's the thing. I mean, I've attempted to see if I can get at least a chat, even like with no camera, a chat with them. It's impossible. It's like Sleep Token. It's the same deal. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the same people at this point. You know?
Yeah.
Let's start that rumor. Sleep Token and Black Gold.
That's great. I like that.
They're just.
That's great.
Yeah, they just
They swap roles.
yeah, exactly.
They swap roles. Yeah.
Have they ever been on the same bill? Have they ever played at the same place? You know, have they been seen in the same place at the same time? No. So,
Dude, dude, you've nailed it, haven't you?
I
You've
think
absolutely nailed it.
I think we should do that and then see what happens. So,
Yeah.
I was going to say Black Gold were one, like, you know, and that was a you know, that was a surprise for me because they blew up on TikTok as well.
Yeah.
They had like within a week, you know, they went viral with one of their things, and it's just been
Yeah.
like, I mean, I found them then. It was kind of like randomly popped up on my feed. Oh, what's this? And I sort of click
It
follow.
was instant. It
Yeah,
was instant, man.
and you know, there's a lot of smaller acts out there. There's Alt Black,
Yeah. All Black Era are wicked.
Alt Black Era.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of the last.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
They're
really
wicked.
bad of me.
Yeah.
And they're ones that I want to get a chat with at some point as well, because they're
Yeah.
like, you know, having more female representation in the new metal thing would be great.
Exactly.
We didn't have any really. We had a couple. We had like Tara B, from
Yeah.
Manhole and Tura Satana. We had Amy Echo, from
Yeah.
Human. People probably haven't heard these bands. Human Waste Project, and Kitty.
She had OTEP and Kitty. You had OTEP
The
and you had there's Guano Apes as well from Germany.
Yes, fucking
Yeah.
love that band.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, there wasn't enough then, but now I can see it. Like, there's a lot more sort of potential for that now coming through, and I feel
100%.
that would be, you know, with the likes of, you know, you got Wargasm, which is a guy and a girl. You got Lake Malice,
Yeah.
again, guy and girl.
Yeah, they're cool.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
there's, you know, there are so many bands out there at the moment. I mean, I've had plenty of like female vocalists on my show recently, from Svalbard, and Dying Wish,
wicked, man.
and Vexed. They're amazing. Like their music is really good.
Yeah.
Not that the others aren't.
No. It's just
it's like
that train of thought, isn't it? It's that train of thought. It's like,
and it's just like, you know, there's so much more representation, especially like, you know, being a dad of daughters and things, and you're like, I want them to get into this, but I want them to have their own, like, you know, they can have my gateway into it, or they can, you know, can share my gateway into this sort of stuff, but I want them to have their own, like, people to look up to, and
people I identify with themselves, really.
Yeah. Exactly, and they're you
Yeah.
know, they're very much Taylor Swift fans and stuff, and
Yeah.
but you know, they also like people like Phoebe Bridgers, which is a bit more sort of like indie edge, kind of like,
There's more alternative vibe to that, isn't there?
yeah,
It's not as cookie cutter. Yeah. I think
my 15-year-old wants to pierce the veil next year, so
there you go.
like,
It's a start. It's a start.
It is a start. Yeah, I'll take
it. I think like the representation thing we're conscious of, because we're all like, we're just a bunch of white dudes in our 30s, and it's just like we can't speak for issues that aren't ours. You know, we can be aware of them, and we can not be ignorant to them. And so we're also with collaboration, and Tripwire is a good example of this, actually. And this wasn't done deliberately, but just as I'm thinking about it, we've got 2 guest features on there.
Yep.
One is Illiman from Peng Shui, British rapper, white dude with a hench beard. I mean, he gives both of us a run for our money. And yeah, and then we've got Taj from Fused by Defiance, who's a mixed race woman from the States.
Yeah.
And incredible talent. So those 2 things I've just mentioned, she's not on the track because of those 2 things. She's on the track because she's an incredible talent.
Oh yeah, totally.
But it's like, as we're consciously talking about, I'm like, that would not have happened in my old band maybe even 10 years ago. There weren't people like that on the scene to collaborate with, or at least they weren't being heard as much, or I wasn't as aware of them. Whereas Fused by Defiance, I found them on, like you said, you came across Black Gold. I found Fused by Defiance on Instagram once, going down a Crostpaths rabbit hole.
Yeah.
There they were. I was like, they were great. They must have been supporting someone, or I saw a live clip. I was like, they're wicked. Got in contact with them. She was so lovely and humble, and it was like, oh, cool. Let's we'll try and collab at some point. And got her on the track when the time was right. It was just, we're
Yeah.
conscious of those things. We don't do anything deliberately though, but
No.
we're aware of when it's relevant.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be, really, because if you're not part of a minority, then you can come off being ignorant to a lot of things that are going on around you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's something we do try to strive to. It's not something we write about because it's not our issue to
No.
speak about.
No.
So it's something that we're always conscious of. And also when we look at live bills, and if someone um, offers us a gig, we don't turn it down because it's all male or anything like that. But we're
Yeah.
always a bit happier when there's more of a mixed lineup.
Yeah.
If it's not just all white dudes, it actually feels more our vibe because of even though we're not ethnically diverse ourselves. So I say that Erim who joins us on keyboards and is our producer, he's Turkish Italian.
Okay.
But yeah, so we got but it's just, it creates a happier atmosphere when you've got something going on like that.
Yeah.
People are more at ease when you've got more, when it's just a group of, I mean, this is why Biscuit got a lot of hate as well, like Woodstock and stuff like that. When it's just a load of angry white guys,
Yes.
it's not always the best vibe, is it?
It is
The
not.
more you can mix up a room, get more women in there, more transgender people, non-binary people in there, people from different races. It just lifts the mood. I think everyone seems happier because they're in a safe, they know they're in a safe space. Do you know what I mean? And we've had that comment from a few people. They've said, like, your shows feel like a safe space, and it's like they're looking at us white guys on the stage, these aging white dudes that are playing new metal from 20 years ago with a modern twist, and they're going, it's a safe space. It's like, if we can make that vibe as us, that's really great to know. That's really great to know. So it's not something we do deliberately. It's just happily do it naturally.
Yeah.
Something you've got to always just bear in mind. So we're aware. That's all you can be, is aware, I think.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it, And I know exactly what you're talking about as well. I've attended stuff where it does feel weird, and I've attended stuff that feels like a community. Like I've had not necessarily a metal show or anything like that. I used to work at a nightclub many years ago, and we had the one of the qualifying battles, if you will, for breakdancing
Wow.
qualifiers for the nationals and the worlds. But yeah, and that atmosphere was absolutely fucking awesome because it was just everyone different, but all kind of vibing on the same thing. So you got this DJ just playing beats and stuff, but you got these people doing these amazing maneuvers on essentially a cardboard floor, and it was but it was one of those moments where so many different people in there, and you feel totally safe. You feel totally welcome. You feel totally like this is how like community should feel. This is how and that's the atmosphere I love at shows when you have them, because it's just like
that's what we try and cultivate, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone should try and do, because it's just sort of, it's one of those things where, because a lot of people do not feel safe out. It's more prevalent these days than it was back then. Back then it was just put down to nerves. You're just a bit nervous. Now it's anxiety. It's like because of reasons, but
what's triggering that anxiety a lot of the time.
Exactly. Whereas back then it's just just a bit nervous about going out. Everyone gets a bit nervous, that kind of thing. But now I'm like, I know exactly, because I feel the anxiety doing shit. And if I'm performing, I feel it. If I'm not performing, I feel it. It's just one of those things I live with. But and now it's just kind of like, if I go to a place with like a great atmosphere, then I'll go back, and it has to be that kind of feel to it. So
that's it, man.
But I'm gonna wrap this up, if that's all right. Let you get back to your kids, because I think I've taken up enough time. But what I want to give from you, one last question, because last time I asked you, obviously, I think your 3 albums and your hobbies and stuff like that away from music. But I've got one here that I wrote for the EP back then. What are your top 5 bands from back then? So, like, from that era when you were younger, your teenage era, what were your like sort of top 5 bands, if you could name them?
Yeah, wicked question. Top 5 is always good as well. Top 10 is too many, I think.
Yeah.
Because top 10, you drop people in and out. But straight off the bat, the top 3, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Papa Roach, easy. But you're talking from back then, so turn of the century.
Yeah.
Because current day, there'd be other entries in the top 5. And then it's actually Eminem. I know he's not a band, but
No, that's
that
good.
era, like first three records from Eminem: Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers, Eminem Show. Can't f with those, man. You cannot f with those at all. And then number five, it would change. Strictly talking turn of the century. So what, 98 into about 2002 or
Yeah,
three, I'm
yeah.
thinking. Sum 41.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going Sum
Yep.
41. Because they might not have been new metal, but they were cross genre
They
in
were.
my eyes.
They were.
They were pop punk and thrash and a bit of hardcore in there as well. I think they were the precursor to A Day to Remember in many ways.
Yep.
Fusing and 4 Year Strong and bands like that, bringing that. What did they call it? Melodic hardcore. What they had a happy something like that. I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was now, but it's bouncing. It's up like pop punk, but it's aggressive and it's still got some edge to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sum 41.
Nice.
And I'm one of those people that does this Look Infected more than All Killer No Filler because it was a heavier record.
Nice.
And Chuck as well. That was a heavy record. So I'm gutted they're splitting up. I still thought they had loads they could have done. There must be reasons.
Must be.
Yeah,
I know there are
but
health.
since then,
Matey, the main singer's health isn't great.
yeah, I wonder if he just can't tour anymore. I would imagine he'd become a producer or something like that.
Yeah.
I always thought Derek's voice was underrated. I watched a live video of them the other day covering something. It come up on my feed. I can't remember what it is now. They did a really they did the fast. It was like a Canadian awards show. They did a sped up, snotty 2001 Sum 41 sounding version of How You Remind Me.
Ah.
And Derek didn't sound great. He didn't sound great on it. But then, like in the sort of past 5 or so years, I mean, Derek turned up at the Chester Bennington Memorial concert,
Yeah.
and then also Mike Schneider was on at Reading the same day as Sum 41, and they did Faint live together.
Yeah.
And Derek, he's never going to sound like Chester, but he could pull it off because he has that grit, and he can also go up. So I always think Derek and Sum 41 are very underrated because they're just written off as another pop punk band, and they weren't. They had a bit more depth to them than that.
They do have more.
I really think so.
No, definitely. It was, because that pop punk thing, like with the likes of Green Day and stuff, that was the sound of pop punk.
Yeah.
Green Day didn't change their sound; they became the sound for that.
Yeah.
Which is what I've always kind of like. A lot of people go, "Oh, they sold out." So like, they didn't. They're all making the same music. It's just that became. But then, like with Sum 41, they had that heavy metal element. That was their influence from back. It wasn't strictly the punk side of it, and you could hear that. Like obviously, classically, the video for Fat Lip had Painful tagged on at the end.
Yeah, exactly. The hair metal thing.
And when I DJ clubs and stuff, I always, whenever I haven't played it for ages, but I usually always followed it with Painful Pleasure.
Yeah,
just to see,
most people will know that bit.
Because it's like a minute long, but it's them like sort of going a bit more, that sort of power metal sort of side. Yeah, exactly. And I have seen them live and stuff, and they were great live, and they do have that kind of like real sort of that crossover element, and and they're kind of adjacent to that new metal jump as well.
Man.
Kindred, it kind of like they took the ragga punk side of it, and then they took the sort of pop punk and metal side of it, and sort of made it.
Exactly. It sat well. Not that Sum 41. I don't think they ever toured with any new metal bands, but it would have worked, and it would work now. I think as a throwback sort of thing. Like if you could have Smashing Pumpkins and Weezy, you could probably have Sum 41 and Papa Roach. Probably work.
Cranky.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's my top 5 from a specific sort of 4 or 5 year period.
Nice.
I don't want to like that to be my definitive 5 because it's in the past sort of. I mean, I'm 35 now. I would chuck Paramore, Avenged, Killswitch, Nickelback, depending on my mood, in there as well. I loved, and in my most favourite band of recent years is Don Broco. I went to see him live 3 times in like the past 18 months, just because I was a latecomer to them, because they started to bring the new metal into their sound as well. They went from being like a heavy Duran Duran sounding band, super melodic, to just like aggressive, kind of riffy, shouty band. It's like, yes, man, and their humour's amazing. I think their humour's really good.
They are. It was quite funny. It was cut out of my podcast, but when I had them on, I had the singer on,
Yeah,
and
Rob. Yeah,
yeah, and at one point his laptop was running out of battery,
yeah.
and he was like, "I need to go grab my charger." He goes, and I go, "Yeah, go, cool, go for it. I'll just, just wait." But I'm in my pants. I'm like, there's that typical like Zoom call, but the top of you is wearing like a nice shirt.
Business up top,
Yeah, and you're just
action down
wearing
below.
pants below. So I'm like, look, I won't let it just go. So I've got the thing.
Oh, I'd have looked, man. That guy's in good shape. I'd have had a
I,
good look.
I had to edit that out of the. Haven't kept it in case anyone's like, I haven't kept it. But yeah, it was just one of those moments where I'm like, because we were just chatting away for ages, and it was just, they are like they're a band that kind of like they grew on me as such.
Same.
The way
Really grew on me. Really grew on me,
like,
man.
they've really come into their sort of sound. They're doing so well now.
Their live show's great as well.
Yeah,
Their live show's great,
yeah,
and I mean they'd fit on loads of these artist bills that I've just said. Well, I think they toured with Shinoda in the States
yeah,
a couple of years back when they were sort of suddenly doing this rise on this new wave they've had. Um, Another band I'd have had. I mean, you could put them in my back in the day list and my current list because they're ever present from the last 30 years. Is the Prodigy? I think when I think how many songs of theirs I like, how many times I've seen them live.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd chuck them. They could make that top five, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're,
just
they're
throw that out there.
they're like it's mad how long they've lasted. Like, because I've watched them for years. Like, just go from
Yeah,
the Experience album and just got like from that rave scene, just go to where they are now.
just
And
evolved.
yeah, just evolved, and they keep evolving. It's not like now they've kind of, they're still. I mean, they're still playing minus Keith, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those bands where you just like they haven't aged as well. That's the
You're right.
um,
Yeah, you're right.
and it's just mad to think how old some of their music is. Especially
Yeah,
like I think this year was the 25th anniversary of Fat of the Land, which was obviously a monumental
yeah,
album for them. But like I've got their first EP on vinyl somewhere. Not to be one of those vinyl people, but What Evil
yeah,
Looks and stuff. And going back to that early rave thing, I love all that. And then they've just gone from there. They've kind of come into my genres of things like electronic punk and everything. And
yeah. Exactly.
they've worked with so many people. And I've had like peripheral members of the Prodigy on the show, and
Yes.
it's just like trying to get bits from them to kind of like find out, a little bit more about how they work. Cause I'd love to get them on, but they're
Yeah,
so elusive. It's
they're very enigmatic, aren't they? Which I think helps
oh,
add
it
to the
does.
mystique.
Yeah, because you're around too.
There's
People know too much about you, and
yeah,
there's none of that. But anyway, Richie, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I've taken up way too much of your father-daughter time. So,
I can hear. I've got my earphones in for you, but I can hear her peripherally. Mum's got
okay,
it under control for now. I've got to go. I've got to go and let Mum do her bits. But yeah, she's happy. She's happy. She's all good.
no
Thank
worries.
you very much, man. It's a pleasure as always. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no
Right
worries.
back at
Sorry
you.
it took too long on that front,
Not
but
at all.
everyone go listen to This Is Fire EP. Go listen to Minced Oaths as well because I'm on that. Um,
Yeah.
but new song, Tripwire with Fuse from Defiance and Illiman on there as well. So go listen to that. It's on all the streaming digital services and all that.
Hell yeah.
You guys going to be live in the new year?
Yeah, we've got some stuff that we can't talk about. Not that we're some big time Charlies, but we've literally been told can't say anything. Um, we're planning on doing a couple of mini. So we had a couple of like every month since May, we've done a couple of shows.
Yeah.
We're trying to do some weekenders next year,
Okay,
and
cool.
I'm just my inbox during this chat. Everyone's trying to get us booked in for. Not everyone. We're not playing Wembley, but we're trying to. We're getting like things like Cardiff popping up
Yeah.
And Rotherham and random things like that. We're looking at hooking up with a couple of bands we kind of know digitally.
Okay, cool.
But we're playing. I don't know when you're dropping this episode, like almost immediately, or you're holding it
Pretty
back
much,
for a
yeah.
while.
No, I'll drop
Right.
in the next few days.
So we'll be playing it's F51 or F51 skate park in Folkestone on, I believe it's the 25th of November. I'll have to check that, but it's our only November show. And we've just announced we're playing the Red Lion in Gravesend, which is our stomping ground. That's our home from home.
Yeah.
On the 23rd of December, so Christmas Eve. And
oh, nice.
Looking at the response so far, it's going to be Ramo. And then I think first gig of the year is in Ramsgate mid-Feb. Like I say, we're getting Cardiff chucked at us. I think I've just booked Canterbury in, which is Kent, but we're looking at going to Edinburgh, Rotherham, and yeah, we've got a cool festival that we're playing in the first quarter of the year that we're not allowed to say yet. We're going to be able to announce that very soon. In fact, if this drops in about 8 days' time, it's probably been announced. But yeah,
Okay, cool. Well,
okay.
everyone go check the Crosspath socials and see where they're
Cheers. Appreciate
on
it.
there. No worries, man. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and
You too.
well, I want to come see you guys play, so hope.
Please do. Please do.
But yeah, you take it easy, man. Have a good one. All right.
Likewise, man. Much love. Yeah. See
All
you
right.
later.
Have a good one. Bye bye.